Hello and welcome back to Stranded Deep, welcome back to Pacific Paradise, and welcome back to this island we're making. We're once again in the PC version of the game, in the map editor, and if you were joining us for the first time, well, we'll just go through the controls, because not everyone has watched this from the beginning, and we want to be inclusive. So, W goes forward, S goes back, A goes left, D goes right, Q goes down, E goes up. And if you right click and hold the mouse button, you can pan the camera around. There is a version of the map editor actually in the console version of the game, but it does look different. It does have a different interface, but it doesn't stop you being creative, which is nice. Last time we were working over here, we were just adding some rocks and some plants to the beach itself in order to create paths, but also in order to block line of sight from one side of the island to another. And one of the things we did do was smooth this area out. And now I've saved and I've come back again, because the theory is that what is going to happen is the sand becomes all geometric once more. So no matter how much we have smoothed this area out, we can see hard edges on the beach itself, and that is something we are not going to be able to fix. The 1.0 version of the game came out in August of last year, and the last update on the PC came out in December of last year. So we are looking at some bugs that haven't been addressed. But speaking of things that haven't been addressed, there is one extra thing that I would like to point out. Actually two. As the camera moves around and you have objects, the camera will speed up and slow down when it gets close to an object. So it looks like we're having frame rate issues, but it's not. It's literally the camera getting close to an object and having its speed slowed down. And then as soon as we move away from objects, we suddenly move a lot faster. We can move even faster if we held shift, but holding shift to run, while it does work, will end up having your face pointed out at sea more often than not. The other thing is that if we go to terrain, and we are going around the edge of the island with the amount slider cranked all the way up, smoothing those beaches that are frustratingly jagged, and then we go to raise and lower height, we hit lower or raise using the checkboxes, and then left click, that amount slider is still all the way up. So the size and the amount will remain between all of our brushes. That means left clicking now would raise, aspire all the way to the heavens, and that's hard to fix. So save often, because there is no undo in the game, and make sure this amount slider is cranked all the way down, because that is going to save you from making a mistake. Speaking of things that we are looking at, well, we didn't add too much last time to the map itself. We added some trees, and you might say that wasn't a lot, my dude. It does add to the texture of the island. It absolutely did add something to the texture of the island. But sometimes you will add something and think, I haven't done much work. I haven't done much to make this island better than it could be. And there is something that this place does lack. It lacks verticality. We have a pine forest with lots of vertical trees, and we have an aeroplane inside it, up in those trees. But we haven't put any cliff pieces down. Any large cliff pieces down. We haven't stopped the player going anywhere. Now there are two ways to use cliff pieces. Cliff 6 is the large cliff section that you can bring out, and yes, we could just put it in, back some dirt up against it and have a cliff. Well, that's great, but we also have nice flowing lines across the entirety of our island, and to do that now would be to make a mess. The other thing we can do is back way out into the ocean and then hit terrain. Now, we can turn the ocean off. Here's a little thing, a little bug that happens when we do that. Display ocean is now off, but if we raise the camera up, those shadows are now relative to where the camera was when we turn the ocean off. If we look at the sky and then turn display ocean off and look back again, those shadows are going to be locked to the beaches. It's a little thing, but it might be distracting as you are going around trying to add certain elements to your island. If things are just skirting around in the background, you might say, I'm more distracted looking at that than I am focused on my island. So what we're going to do is we're going to find Cliff 2. This is a sea stack, and we're just going to put it near the beach and grab one of these toggles and pull it until it doesn't go any further. We can't go further than this. So basically where the abyss starts, which gives us an interesting opportunity. It gives us the opportunity to grab a couple of these pieces and just put them out as far as we can, just to demark the very, very edge of where we can put something. So here, here, and here is the furthest we can actually put elements in the game. Interesting. So what we can do is grab Cliff 6, which we weren't going to put on the main island, because, well, it's just too big. It's too big and too, I don't know, je ne sais quoi. We'll put it down, and even with the ocean turned off, we can start to tell when there's water above it, because if you have caustics turned on, you'll see the caustics appear on the top of the rock. Might be hard to see if YouTube compression has compressed that away, but by turning the ocean on, we can actually see that we are below the water level. So, objects. I can click on that and raise it up. We know the bottom is on the seafloor. Move it out slightly. R to rotate. C to clone. T to transform. R to rotate. T to transform. So we're just going to make a little feature. And we're going to turn the water off. That's probably perfect just there, actually. So go back to objects, and I want it very close to the edge of the island, well, cake or tabletop or whatever you want to call it. But I don't want it just touching the abyss. I want something down there, just in case a player falls off. Okay. And we're just going to pull this in. I'm going to hit C to clone, T to transform, R to rotate. And just grab these toggles, left clicking with the mouse. Nice. Good. And we can put cliff pieces bisecting each other. That means that the big rocky outcrops will actually mesh quite nicely. So we don't have to have the full length of the cliff piece. What we can do is clone and then rotate and then transform. And I want a little circle, as close to a circle as you can get with large sections of cliff. I'm going to hit rotate. I'm going to turn that so it's down. Transform, and then bring it in somewhat. But what are you doing? That, detective, is the right question. We actually have a couple of pieces here, so I'm going to hit delete on the keyboard, because apparently we have a couple of extra sections that we don't need. One of the things I am going to do is just come down here and just make sure the cliff pieces are actually buried in the seafloor, because the bottom of the cliff sections are open. And in the unlikely event that... oh, camera is just jerking around. That's that little speed issue that I was talking about. In the unlikely event that a player will come under here, swim underneath, they might swim into the cliff section and get stuck. It's unlikely, but it's possible. So now we have a little hemisphere, a little horseshoe of stuff. And this is fine, but we're going to need to turn the water back on, because I'm going to need to see how this looks. So, go to objects, just change the camera angle so we can see what's going on. Okay, and I'm going to drop this down as much as we can get away with. Okay, good. Here as well. And then this is probably fine here, but I'm going to hit rotate and then transform. Okay, good. Now here, just looking at this, I'm thinking, well, that's not quite what we need. So transform, bring it in. Good, excellent. We can change the shape artificially later on if we need to by adding extra cliff sections. Rotate, transform, bring it in. That's good. Yeah, that is good. Okay, so cliff 2, which we've used before, I'm going to bring that in. And that is now sat on the seabed. I can tell that's sat on the seabed. I'm just going to bring that in here and just snuggle it in here to get rid of that straight edge. It might not be obvious to the player, but it's obvious to us. So let's get rid of that. I'm going to do the same thing here. Drop it down because I just want to obfuscate the fact that these are straight edges along here. Good. I think we can get rid of that, yes, by pressing delete on the keyboard, or we can hit the bin icon in the corner. So it's a cube going into a bin that has a lid on the bin. It is the icon bottom right. Excellent. But wait. You now just have a bunch of rock in the ocean. Yeah. Yes, we do. So we're going to hit terrain. And what we're going to do is use the middle button. So read terrain paint height. So we've got set height selected. And change the size down just temporarily so we can see what's going on. And I'm going to select some of the grass there. Then what we're going to do is crank the amount slider up a bit. Select the hard edge brush. And I'm going to turn the water off. I'm going to point the camera towards the sky. Display ocean off. There we go. So this will fill this area up. So if I left click and hold. Oh, left click and hold with the tool selected. There you go. We get a nice bulge of dirt. Change the size down significantly. And then paint in, filling the gaps. Because whenever you have terrain and you have dirt, you have these little gaps, and what we don't want, ever, is the player to be walking along and then just fall into a gap, because they could get stuck. And if you've made a map where a player can get stuck, well, that's just bad map design. So I'm just going to go and fill in all of these holes while we can see them. And the reason we're using the hard edge brush is so that we don't raise the terrain the other side of the cliffs accidentally, which we could do with the soft edge brush. So I'll just fill that in. Good. And I think that's all of the holes filled. Excellent. Soft edge brush. Change the amounts slightly down. Change the size up. And raise some of the terrain. Now what we want is more of a causeway. So I'll raise that up. Smooth height, soft. The amount slider is up. Crank the amount slider up more. Size is up. And then I'm just going to push this down. And what I want is this to be disconnected from the main island. So as we brush around, all of these edges are going to melt away. Nice. Good. Now we're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive. So what we'll do is read terrain paint height, and I'll select an area where there's caustics because we know that's where water is. Change the amount slider down. Leave it on the soft edge brush, but change the brush size down. So this is going to be a way of the players walking straight onto our little external island and being able to build there as well if they wanted to. We'll put some plants and trees and things on there as well. And we'll fill that with resources. So we're just pushing this down, just left click and hold until we see caustics appear. If you're in a system that's not able to see the caustics, don't worry about that. You just turn the ocean back on and then you'll see exactly what's going on. It's a little harder to see where the brush is if you don't have the caustics and the ocean turned off. We can just paint around here. So we want the water, and we want the ability to have a raft that could sail through here. Good. This is fine, but we need to do some things with this. First of all, I'm going to turn the ocean back off. So here up at the sky, ocean off, come back down again. Nice. So we know this looks good. And we know this sand here, this darker coloured sand, rather than the sand which has the footprints on it. The footprint sand is going to be where the game puts coral and rocks and things. The darker colour sand, there'll be fishes and things swimming around, but it won't put any rocks down there. Because when you just go into the game, it'll populate the exterior of your island with coral and rocks. You don't have to do any of that. So you only have to worry about what's actually on the island itself. So we can hit smooth, mount slider up, size out, and just left click and just push the brush around. Like we're assuming that it's going to do something, but we know that it's bugged. Okay, good. So we're going to hit raise and lower. Change the amount just off the stop. Hit raise, size down. And then I'm going to mask that lump of rock there, because we don't need it. I'm going to raise this up here, because it's good. And lower this. So push it down slightly. So we're just going to go around the outside, kind of like the Buffalo Girls, just raising and lowering things. There we go. And push that down a little further than it needs to be. Because in nature, there are very rarely hard edges, or even geometrical edges, but there are straight lines in nature. The Giant's Causeway, a good example of that over in Ireland. Okay. And obviously you have bismuth and quartz, examples of straight edges in nature. Good. So, smooth height. Now what we don't want to do is accidentally start raising seabed, but I think we're far enough away from it. So let's go around here. Just a little touch every now and again. The amount slider is almost all the way down, so I don't need to worry about that too much. And that is a much more natural looking area. The player can still jump up on the rocks, which is good. We haven't raised the seabed on the outside. In fact, if I hit an object, and let's see, can we get one where we can actually pull it away? Not you. Not you. It's hard to select things at this point. If I move you away, there we go. So that's what we end up with. A very hard edge, very vertical edge, and that was the hard edge brush doing that. That's why we didn't use the soft edge brush, because it wouldn't give us such a good effect. Move you back into the terrain. Not so far back it. There we go. Good. Might need to just compensate for... No, we should be okay. Good, excellent. Terrain objects, so we don't have anything selected. And then what we're going to do is just throw some rocks in here. Not so big. Not so big. We'll probably go with the small rocks, to be honest. Well, I think it's self-explanatory. Okay, so we'll do that and just rotate them in. Transforming T and R very quickly. I think this should be closer to the waterfront, so I'm going to go to terrain, hit the cog, display ocean back on. There we go. Because this is very big and very flat and very open, and I don't necessarily want that. So objects, let's grab you and drop you in. I want to obfuscate the fact that there is just a big open area here by doing exactly what we've done everywhere else. Throwing in some rocks and trees. Okay. Small rock. Bundling some small rocks together. You can come in, rotate, transform, slide it in, put it up. These can all mesh together quite well, so you can create some abstract artwork with your rocks, because they're all the same texture. Now we go to terrain. We will go to raise, make sure the mount slider is down, almost all the way. Size of the brush is okay, but it could be smaller. Just left click, just click once just to see what happens. If it suddenly shoots towards the sky, then you might have a problem. Let's raise this up slightly. And here as well. Smooth. course. Natürlich. So we'll just smooth this area off. Mount slider slightly higher. Good. Excellent. So we have now raised the terrain up inside a ring of cliff pieces. And then what we've done is we've come along, smoothed it off, and just made sure that the terrain isn't all the same level. So we've got a little bit here that's kind of flat. We can just raise that up. We might slide it down. So just so it's different to the area around it. There we go. And then just smooth that off. Just take the harshness off the peak. Good. Objects. Well, of course we're going to close that, bring trees out, go down to Ficus 2, bring you out. R to rotate. Make sure you've got the big old branch. One of these is a big old branch. It's you. Alright. R to rotate, T to transform. R to rotate. And then what I want, I think that one's probably the bigger one. Just move you in slightly. Now it's clicked, it's selected rock. So we'll look away, see if we can select the tree again. Very hard to select the tree because there's so many items in the way. Do we have tree selected? Yes. You can help yourself by just looking in a direction where there are fewer objects, so it's less likely to snap. Mine just snapped again, but that's okay. We'll go in and just see if we can select a tree. Are you tree? No, you are rock. A game of tree and rock. Rock tree. Okay. And I'm going to just grab that and pull that down into the earth. There we go. So, yep, we have a big old tree there. I'm going to put another one over here. To check the terrain. It's not too bad. It's fine. Could be better. Yeah, of course it could be better. So we're going to just go and look at rocks for a second. And we're going to look at small rocks. Let's rotate. Because why would you not? T to clone, T to transform, R to rotate, T to transform, and just sort of, I mean, you get the idea. It's a very simple idea. Good. Terrain, raise, click on raise, change the size of the brush down, pull that up a bit around here. Just left click and hold. There we go. Smooth, yes please, just tap it down a little bit. Probably raise this up here as well. Just so it's not so far down. There are no gaps that you can break your ankle in and never come out. So, objects, find ourselves a tree. Find ourselves the Ficus 2. Because it is big old, I mean, it's the main tree that we've been using for the whole island, and it will be. The main structural tree, the one tree that cannot be cut down. Is that good? It is. R to rotate, to move it over slightly. E to transform, it hasn't snapped away yet, but honestly, yeah, that's fine. We could C to clone, R to rotate. Rotate it so the branch is down. T to transform, and now we've selected. What have we got selected? Actually, it's probably fine the way it is. Now, if somebody wanted to build a house or something here, then these trees would absolutely get in the way. Why would somebody want to build a house on an island offshore? That, detective, is the right question. We've done that before. So can we select this tree at all? Can we select it at all to move it? Yes, we can. So R to rotate. I think I'll just rotate it slightly this way. And then slightly this way. Okay. To clear some area there. That's better. Much better. So we have an area here which is still fairly open. You might still be able to put something small there. Objects. And what I think I'll probably do is put another here. So a rule of 3 with the trees. So put that down there. Now we do have a big old section of cliff here, which somebody can jump up and run around on. What I don't want to do is put the tree in such a position where if somebody fell down behind there, they would get stuck. So I'm going to move it slightly further away from the rock. What we could do is move it over and sort of pinch the player off if they do decide to go in there, but that's fine, I think. Good. Throwing objects, so we don't have anything selected, because sometimes you'll pull something out of the menu, and then whatever is in the background will start sliding or spinning around. It's just it's a feature. And a bug. No, it's nothing to do with Stranded Deep and everything to do with just the way that computers interpret selected items and mouse movements, mouse clicks. So I'm going to put it down a little ficus tree. Nobody can chop this boy down because the ficus tree is one of the indestructible ones. Ficus tree 1 and ficus tree 2 are indestructible. So what we're going to do is terrain objects, because we do have something selected. We have a cliff piece selected, and I'm just going to find a hollow here. R to rotate, because trees will generally either face the sun or face the direction where there is sun. So if there's a large number of plants or items in an area, what you might find is that the tree does grow at an angle because that's where the sun was. But in general, if you put a plant down in the middle of nowhere, it will grow upwards because that's where the sun is. Praise the sun. Okay, cool. So we can add things here as well. It's a nice little open area. I mean, yeah, you could probably put a building there still. Or you could put something here, a little campsite if you wanted to. So we'll leave it open. We'll leave it open rather than filling it up. Having said that, what we can do is put some palm trees in as well. So a few palms. Let's do this near the entrance. There we go. The thing about the palms is just make sure the base is in the ground, especially if you're putting the palm down on a sloped surface. Palm tree 2. Now, where do we want it? I think probably closer. Let's put this over here. Yeah, find a little nook in the rock and put it there. So, palm tree. Okay. Put them side by side. It'll rotate. Yeah, why not? You can only rotate them on their axis. You can't do too much more with them. But it's adding more foliage to something that generally we've been okay with so far. R to rotate. So we have two entranceways here and here. So as a player is, let's go to the beach. Let's go down. So as a player is looking at this thing, it's offshore. It's a nice island that's offshore. I mean, we have another island over here that we're going to need to dress, but this one's slightly different because you can go offshore and then it gets very deep. Very, very deep around the outside. And then you have the abyss. So, yeah, it's okay. Excellent. It is looking good, if I'm going to be honest. We're going to need to add some smaller plants just to dress things up. But as an offshore island goes, yeah, it's looking sweet. Good. So what we could do in here is add some resources. Terrain and objects. Make sure we have nothing selected. We are definitely going to add a couple of yucca here. Because we want the player to be coming along and harvesting some bits and pieces. But wait. We have this edge where, I'm going to let go of that. We have these edges where there are little drops there. We actually have a bit of seawater coming up. So I'm just going to raise and lower. I'm going to make sure we have a small brush and then just mount sliders down and just raise this slightly. In fact, there is an easy way of doing this. If we go to objects, select that, and pull that in slightly. That's okay that the tree's pinched. It's growing in a crevasse in the rocks. But yeah, if we put a yucca here, when a player harvests the leaves could fall off into a gap. So what we can do is terrain objects, make sure we have nothing selected, and put the yucca somewhere where, once the physics objects spawn on the yucca itself, after you've hit it with an axe a couple of times, the leaves aren't going to fall into a gap and just get lost, because it's kind of frustrating. Good. And we can do the same thing over here. So terrain objects, because we've just placed a yucca somewhere that we know is going to be quite safe, but I mean, it's pushed right up against the rock. Good. Excellent. So we have a nice open area. We've dressed it with trees. We are going to need to do some more to it. But considering we've just made ourselves a little offshore island, I'm quite happy with that. And it is something that the map absolutely needed. So if we back up, terrain objects, so we have nothing selected. Objects, please. The reason we would always select objects is because if we have terrain open, we can accidentally click with the mouse button and change something in the terrain, and we'll never know where the change was, or even if we did make a change. So now we come back here, and last time we were concerned that if a player stands here, they would be able to see all the way to the coast. Now we have the trees and the rock and everything, and we have this little pathway that goes all the way to the island that we've just created. We have a little bit of water and a little bit of water, and then we have that island in the distance. So we have the lake, which for RP reasons we're going to assume is fresh water, which is which is sustaining the survivors. And then we have beyond the lake, we have a beach with our rocks and trees that we put in last time. We have the water from the mangrove swamp. We have a little bit of headland, which we are still going to need to dress. And then we have our offshore island. So while we were trying to stop the player being able to see from one side of the island to another, we have created a little viewport into a point of interest that the player might be interested in. Excellent. And there's the survivors camp beneath us, and the DC3 up in the trees. Okay, well, I'm going to leave it there for the time being. So, if you like these videos, definitely leave a little like. Leave a subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. If you want notifications, dingle the bingle. If you don't want notifications, don't click the bell, and I'll tell you what, I'll catch you next time.